walking through a ghost town. Y'all ain't playing my sounds. Don't tell me to calm down. Don't tell me to calm down. Only time I go backwards is when I wanna moonwalk. Don't test me, my mood's wrong. Don't test me, my mood's wrong. We are who we say that we are. You were lost in the stars, and it's all from the start. Never running no pace, never on the right page. But we still read that book, and we still run that race. Ay. Mississippi Racer riding out, no shortcuts, no time for that. Mississippi Racer riding out, till the wheels fall off, I'm driving that. Mississippi Racer riding out, we'll stop burning, strike the match. Mississippi Racer riding out, red light, green light, red light, good night. Ay. Red light, green light, red light, good night. 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 No time to chill, don't sweat it.
Good morning and welcome. It is Coffee and Sports. It is the morning show powered by Wire to Wire Network. Thank you for making us part of your Monday morning routine. I am Chris, and of course, that is Mo. Mo, happy Monday, sir.
Happy Monday to you, partner, and everybody out there listening.
Mo, did you happen to catch the Chicago Sky and Indiana Fever basketball game the other night?
Actually, I did watch it. I did. I ended up watching the second half until the very end. So yeah, I caught it.
It was a nice comeback for the Chicago Sky. It was a 1-point victory. But Mo, what's stealing the show, if you will, is not what took place on the court. It's what took place off the court over on the X-verse, formerly known as Twitter. Mo, I don't know who runs the Twitter account for the Chicago Sky. I would fire them this morning if I was in charge of the Chicago Sky, because it literally looks like it is a 12-year-old who is running their Twitter account. Now, Mo, I am all for, because the NFL teams do this all the time, right? They poke fun at each other. It's playful jabs, and I guess it's in better taste, is my point of view. Looking at it wasn't just the tweet after the game last night. It was the tweets all throughout the game last night. And then I was looking back at previous games and previous tweets, and it just looks like there is someone who is not very good at their job running the Chicago Sky's social media account. Because again, and if you haven't seen it, it's not disrespectful per se. It's nothing that's like overly offensive. It's nothing that's crossing like a racial line or anything crazy like that. It's just not what you do. Like, it's just not professional, in my opinion. Like, I get it every now and then, Mo, if like you want to do something that's a little off kilter and you're like, oh, it's funny. It's all in jest. But at the end of the day, and we're going to circle this back to a previous conversation that we had. At the end of the day, you are representing a professional team in a professional league, a league that is already having issues and has had issues over the past, 2.5 decades at being taken seriously. A league that is, we just talked about this, is going to lose $50 billion this year. Mo, you have one job at that point. If you are running a social media anything for any of these teams, your only job is do not be mentioned in a negative light. That's it. Just go out there, do your job, and do not make yourself a story, because that's not what needs to happen when you are doing anything for a WNBA team. The only thing that should be talked about in the WNBA is what is happening on the floor between the female athletes who are playing in this league. There should be nothing taking away from anything else when you have lost money every single year that you are in existence.
I'm with you 100%. It's somebody brought this to my attention last night about the reaction and the things that were posted on X. And I was trying to take the angle that maybe they're just trying to come across as a troll on purpose, right? You're trolling, but if you troll a certain way, you're going to get a lot of reactions, right? And maybe that's what you're going for. You're going for reactions. I don't like it per se, But if that is your angle, then you're gonna get no shortage of reactions. So maybe that is the job that was put out to the person that runs their Twitter thing. Hey, get as many reactions, responses as you can. And some people do embrace that kind of trolling thing, right? They do, especially when it comes to a specific person. So if you want to go 6 degrees of separation, they're going to go, well, what it's really about is we beat Caitlin Clark again, right? And we just want to throw a few things out there and imply, point Z or point A, So I do think that's the angle they're gunning for. And if you're doing that, like I said, it's not my thing, but if that's the job that you were given, then they're doing their job.
It's a wild world we live in, Mo. It is a wild world that we live in.
Trust me, I know. I was thinking about our friend Ryan Garcia, and you point. And I know this isn't a talk we had.
He's back, Mo. Kind of.
Well, you pointed out when he said that he was retiring. He said that the day before, the very next day, he got banned from boxing for a year for the steroid use. He wasn't retiring. They told him he was going to get banned. That's what that was. He was trying to get ahead of it. Like, I'm upset. I'm walking away. And it's not a coincidence the next day banned for a year.
Yeah, it came out the day after. We talked about this here on the morning show. It came out the day after. He has a 1-year ban. And he was actually asked about it. And he was pretty honest, Mo. He said, you don't tell me when I take time off. Actually, Ryan, they do tell you. And
Right.
They did tell you, and you knew they were going to tell you.
Right. It wasn't a surprise. They told you ahead of time what was going on. And because you knew that, you went on social media the day before and put on this melodrama how you were fed up and you're going to retire. You didn't have a choice. You were going to be retired for a year anyway.
But what it is he said that he's putting himself into a 1-year retirement, even though he's officially banned for the next year. But he will box again. It does look like, I love your opinion on this, Mo. It looks like he is trying to get himself a oh my gosh, why is it totally blanking on me here? MMA, what UFC. It looks like he's trying to get himself a UFC fight in the interim. It wouldn't be the first time that we've seen Dana White do something with boxers, not necessarily currently banned boxers who aren't allowed to compete in their main sports. But nevertheless, he is definitely a marketable guy. And Dana White is very much open, like Vince McMahon always was, to making money. If it makes sense and money's there to be made, you're going to at least get a conversation with Dana White. Doesn't mean you're going to get the deal done. But it looks like Ryan is looking forward to do a UFC thing in the year layoff that he has before he makes his grand return to boxing, which, by the way, Mo, you know how this works. So let's say he gets the UFC thing. He's going to make a buttload of money from that. And then it's going to keep him relevant during this 1-year ban. And then when he comes back to boxing, it's going to be his return to the squared circle. And he's going to get a bunch of money from coming. Like, it almost benefits him in a way, doesn't it?
It almost benefits him, but I would put out, what if he does the UFC thing and he gets in the ring and somebody beats him down? You know what I'm saying? Like, he's a boxer, and I don't know if he has any. I'm pretty sure he has no experience in mixed martial arts. They're gonna have to put him in there with somebody who they literally think he can absolutely beat this guy for it to be a credible fight. Because if you put him in there with a really skilled fighter, a martial artist, he's gonna get destroyed. So I have to assume that it could be set up where he can make a lot of money, or it could be set up where he could be very embarrassed and not be marketable at all coming back. So he and his team might really want to think this through.
It's all about those dollar signs, Mo. Let's talk a little NFL, shall we? Pro Football Focus, Mo. They just like to ruffle the feathers of everybody. They released their best of lists over the weekend, and they have now ranked every player by position. We're going to go through 3 of those positions. We're going to go through running back, wide receiver, and quarterback, Mo. Let's start with the running back position. We're just going to go top 15. We'll do this like we do all of our lists, Mo. We will start going through it from the bottom to the top, and we will stop when we get to somewhere where we don't agree. That's the best way to do it, because in theory on these lists, everyone should be slightly better than the last. So as long as we are going up and we have no issue name over name, then it's probably a pretty quality list. So let's start with the guy who just missed the top 15 at the running back position in the NFL, according to Pro Football Focus. That was Kyren Williams, the young running back for the Los Angeles Rams. He is a stud, Mo. He is an absolute stud, but he is also, I think this is his third year in the league coming up this season. I think he was a rookie 2 years ago. He had his big moment last season, and now he's going into year 3. I know if you're a Rams fan, you're probably looking at this like, are you kidding me? He just rushed for almost 1,200 yards last year, 5 yards a carry, 12 touchdowns, and he's not even top 15. He did it 1 year, Mo. And we talk about this with quarterbacks all the time, but it's even a broader conversation with a running back. You have running backs who pop off all the time for half a season, 10 games, 1 full season, a season and a half, 2 seasons. They get paid, and then you never hear from them again. It's like the previous 2 seasons didn't even matter. So, no, we are not going to crown you at the running back position, which, oh, by the way, is a very undervalued, underappreciated position as it is right now in the NFL. You need more than 1 season right now, Mo.
You do. This is what I will say, though. Having a good friend of mine, my partner, told me, watch out for the Rams. So what did I do? I started watching more Rams football. And I'm just going off the eye test. Barring an injury, he's gonna be even better this coming season. Don't be shocked if he gives you a 1,400 or 1,500 yard season. So I get it. I'm with you. You got to show me more than 1 sample size, but I think he's going to do exactly that.
All right, let's kick off the top 15. Number 15 is Isaiah Pacheco with the Kansas City Chiefs. So that is going to be our baseline. Although Pacheco didn't have the numbers that I would have liked to have seen for someone that's ahead of Kyren Williams, I do also understand the position that Isaiah Pacheco is in. He is on a Kansas City Chiefs team where the focus is not the running game, Mo. It is Patrick Mahomes. And Pacheco does more than make the most of his opportunities. And he's not just a running back. He is a weapon in the receiving game as well. He's also won back-to-back Super Bowls with the Kansas City Chiefs. Mo, I have no issue with Pacheco being the 15th person in the top 15 list for running backs.
I do. I think Williams is out now better than him. I don't even think it's close. Pacheco is a good running back, but he's just a good running back. You know what I mean? Like, and I really mean that he's just a good running back. He will never lead the league in rushing.
He will not.
And it's not because he plays with Patrick Mahomes. He's just a good running back, but he's not a special running back. He's a good football player. But I would look at him and go, well, I don't think he's any better than Tony Pollard. He's just had more success.
Oh, the slander.
I'm just being look. If you watch him, he's a hard running running back. Plays hard, does everything required of him, but he's not special. If they lost Pacheco tomorrow, will we go, well, the Chiefs would? No, they would just plug in another running back. He's not. I'm not trying to say he's just a guy, but he's not unique. So at least when I look at Kyren Williams, like we just talked about, he had a 1,200 yard season. Pacheco's not going to have a 1,200 yard season, and if he does, I would look at his yards per carry, because I guarantee you he probably averages 4 or under 4 yards a carry. That's what I look at.
But in fairness, Mo, we know how it is. When a running back has a big season, we got to see it twice.
Right, but Pacheco hasn't had a big season once. Why is he in the top 15? Like you said, like, well, he won 2. No, Patrick Mahomes won 2 Super Bowl, and he happens to be on Patrick Mahomes' team.
Well, let's look at 14. Tony Pollard. This is what we're dealing with, though, at the running back position, Mo. This is the quality running back we are looking at here, okay?
That's crazy. I had no idea he was ranked there. And sure enough, yes, Tony Pollard's better than Pacheco. Yes. And I'm not a big Tony Pollard fan.
Number 13 is Raheem Mostert with the Miami Dolphins, formerly with the San Francisco 49ers. Mostert, Mo, first of all, he's going to be 32 years old this season, which is supposed to be, the graveyard for NFL running backs. But he averaged 4.8 yards per carry last season, just over 1,000 yards. He dealt with some injuries. I think he missed 2 or 3 games along the way. Mostert, when healthy, he can be the guy. He's not the workload guy. He's not the guy that's going to be the only back out of the backfield. But Mo, he has speed to burn. It's just one of those situations where he isn't. And there, as we go through this list, Mo, I think what we're going to see is there's not a lot of every down backs in here.
I agree. Yeah, I'm sure that. Look, I would say this about Mostert, though. I know he's turning 32. He's a unique case. He's turning 32, but because he's never really been a workhorse running back, I'd say his body's more like 27.
Oh, yeah, he's got the wheels of a mid-20-year-old.
Right. He's a unique talent in that he could go 10 carries for 11 yards, and then the 11th carry, 70 yards touchdown. He's that guy. He's a classic scat back that can just hit you out of nowhere for a home run. So I think he's ranked properly.
Number 12 is Kenneth Walker III from Seattle. This is another one of those things. A couple of years ago, we saw what we thought was the breakout of Kenneth Walker with Seattle. And then we look at last season, we're like, he had injuries. When he wasn't hurt, he was all right. He wasn't what we projected him to be coming into last season. And Mo, this tends to be what you get sometimes with running backs. You think that they're about to take over the team and they're going to be the 1,400-yard guy. And I think he could be. I think he could be that kind of back. But at the same time, you're looking at a guy that, he has some injury history, and that's what bothered him last season. So I have no issue with him being 12th. But at the same time, I mean, look at the first 4 guys we had on this list: Walker, Mostert, Pollard, and Pacheco. I think Pacheco is maybe Pollard's the healthiest out of all of them, but Pollard isn't a featured back.
No.
Mostert isn't a featured back. Kenneth Walker is trying to be a featured back. Pacheco isn't really a featured back either. So you're looking at a top 15 list. We're almost at the top 10, and we don't really have a featured every down back yet.
That's interesting, but I think that also goes to the era of football that we play in, where this back in the day, it was the run sets up the pass. In this current era, more times than not, the pass sets up the run. The feature back slowly but surely seems to be evaporating from the NFL. The guy that carries the ball 25, 30 times a game, there's some exceptions, but not that many.
Number 11, just missing the top 10, is Travis Etienne. His workload increased in 2023. He posted another 1,000-yard rushing season, 11 touchdowns. He had 5.1 yards per carry. Well, actually, he fell. He fell from 5.1 to 3.8 last season. But he is also another back that is heavily used in the receiving game as well. I might have put him inside the top 10, Mo, but I have no issue with him being 11th.
He's a really good football player, and I think that his drop-off in yards per carry, I think that directly correlates to the fact that teams were honing in on him. Like, how they we need to stop the passing game? I think more teams were focused on locking him down, Chris, versus the fact they should be trying to look to lock down Sunshine. So he's ranked properly to me as well.
Just inside the top 10 is Josh Jacobs. Josh Jacobs led the league in rushing in 2022, Mo. And then again, you see this with backs sometimes. Last season, he didn't even break 1,000 yards. He barely broke 800 yards last season, 3.5 yards per carry. You look at the quarterback change up there in Green Bay. There are a lot of shifting with Aaron Rodgers leaving and Jordan Love trying to come into his own. He was still over 1,100 yards from scrimmage. We are never, or at least I am never, going to deny the talent that Josh Jacobs has. The talent is there. You can see the talent is there. It's a lot about usage. It's a lot about scheme. It's a lot about opportunity. Mo, no one, and he was a little bit banged up towards the end of last season as well, I believe, with the Raiders. But no one that leads the league in rushing in 2022 is just going to completely fall off a cliff in 2023 moving forward when you're still as young as Josh Jacobs is. I think he's going to be fine. And yes, by the way, my bad there. It wasn't the Packers who had the shift. It was the Raiders who had the shift in quarterback situation from Derek Carr to their mess that they currently still have at quarterback situation for Josh
This is
Jacobs.
true. I think he had to deal with Jimmy G and a few other guys.
Yep.
Look, this is what I say about Josh Jacobs. Terrific one cut back. I actually think that with Jordan Love becoming better, and it's funny because we need to see more from Jordan Love. We just got a sample size. But assuming he can play somewhere near to the level he was at the end of the season, Josh Jacobs is going to become his best friend.
Do you like Jacobs over ETN?
I think ETN is a better overall football player. I think he's more versatile.
All right. Number 9 is Jahmyr Gibbs for the Detroit Lions. I like Jahmyr Gibbs.
He's nice.
I think he belongs in the top 10. I know. We haven't seen a ton out of him. I am okay with that. I just like Jahmyr Gibbs. He rushed for nearly 1,000 yards in his rookie season, 10 touchdowns, 5.2 yards a carry, Mo. Keep in mind, he was split in time in that backfield. He was split in time. He wasn't the main back. He was split in time with, I can't think of who his partner was at the moment, but it was a two-headed running backfield, and they've worked in a third back as well. But Jahmyr Gibbs is nice, Mo.
I'm a big fan. He's one of those guys that has the ability to make people miss in small spaces. So when I look at that Detroit offense, how they spread you out, that was his rookie year. I think he's going to go up this year in his production. So I think Jahmyr Gibbs is ranked properly. I think he's one of those guys that can be very Christian McCaffrey-like.
Number 8 is Aaron Jones. Personally, I have an issue with Aaron Jones.
He's really high. Wow. 8?
Number 8 is Aaron Jones. He has been on my fantasy team for the last few seasons. Obviously, he did not do much for me last season. I don't even think he had 700 yards rushing last season. I know injuries. He did average 4.6 yards a carry. But dear God, why PFF? Why do you have Aaron Jones inside the top 10? I don't think he's a top 10 running back.
Why do you have him inside the top 10 when the history of Aaron Jones is incredible talent, consistently injured? And I could be wrong, but I have to think he's at that magical number where he's at or under other side of 30. So
I don't know how old he is.
I think he's at or on the other side of 30. My point is, why would you have him that high? I actually thought at his very best, he would have just been inside the top 10, but they have him really high considering what he's done over the last couple of seasons, but maybe they know something we don't know.
And Mo, you are correct. He is currently 29 years old. He will be 30 this season in December. Well done, partner. Just scouting out those 30-year-old running backs. Let's go. All right, number 7 is Breece Hall. I think Breece Hall has all the talent in the world. I do think he is a better running back than Aaron Jones. He was coming off of the ACL. I believe he was right around 1,000 yards last season. Maybe a tad high for me. I would still have him top 10, but maybe a tad high for me just because, coming off the injury last season, he wasn't even 1,000-yard back. But the ceiling for Breece Hall, in my opinion, is through the roof. And I think he is going to have a tremendous season this season in the NFL.
Coming off that major injury, it usually takes a player a year to get fully back to where they were. In Breece Hall's case, the fact that he was near 1,000-yard season with the quarterback play that he has, I want to remind everybody who they had at quarterback. Defenses didn't honor the quarterback. They looked at the Jets offense and said, we're going to play 9 men in the box, literally stop the run because we're not afraid of the quarterback. And Breece Hall still almost had 1,000 yards with defenses stacked against him. I think if they're going to get a healthy Aaron Rodgers, he maintains his health, Breece Hall is going to have a 12 to 1,500-yard season.
Number 6 is Saquon Barkley. Mo, I think that people forget how good Saquon Barkley is because he played for the New York Giants with a terrible quarterback in Daniel Jones. You are going to see a very different Saquon Barkley with the Philadelphia Eagles because what you're not going to see is defenses stack the box early to shut down the run game at the start of the game, and then you're down 10, 14, 13 points, and you stop running anyways because you're playing catch-up because you're down 2+ touchdowns. So he just by default isn't involved in the game calling anymore. That's not what you're going to see in Philly. And as a result, you're going to see, I think, a very efficient Saquon Barkley, health withstanding, with the Philadelphia Eagles.
I think he's going to have one of those seasons where he has anywhere between 18 and 1,900 total yards, because I think he's also a threat in the passing game as well. And with the versatility and the weapons that they have on the outside, yeah, I think Saquon Barkley, well, let's throw that in there. Absence of an injury is going to have, he's probably going to be right there with C-Mac in terms of total yards.
Let's get into the top 5. If you are tuning in right now, we got JG coming on here in about 5 minutes to talk some Major League Baseball. Number 5, Mo, Bijan Robinson. You want to talk about someone who's going to have a breakout season this season. Oh, dear Lord. If you rode through the pain of last season with the Atlanta Falcons, asking yourself, what is going on? Why did I do this? But you still wake up this morning with him on your team, that being Bijan Robinson. Congratulations. You made it through the storm, and you are about to get paid off tenfold this upcoming season, because he is going to put up numbers. And I'm not saying he didn't put up numbers last season, because he did. I think he put up nearly 1,500 total scrimmage yards last season, but less than 1,000 of those were on the ground, because he is a great pass catcher as well. Mo, I don't think this is a stretch. I think he could be close to 2,000 total scrimmage yards this season, because Kirk Cousins, he likes the running back. He likes running backs who can catch the football, and I think they're going to be more dedicated and balanced in the run game. So I think he could easily have a 12, 13, 1,400 yard season on the ground and add in 600 or 700 through the air. I think he's going to have a monster season.
With Kirk Cousins in that offense, with Bijan Robinson, they're going to scheme passing plays where they get Bijan Robinson on a linebacker. They're going to scheme plays like that. Like Bijan Robinson, to me, the highest compliment I can give him, Chris, is he has moves like Barry Sanders. He can make people miss. He can break ankles. I think he's going to have the season that you predict. Outside of health, Bijan Robinson is going to have a breakout season. He is electrifying. I think Kirk Cousins is going. Those two together, I know they have talent on the outside, but Bijan Robinson, he might very well lead them in receiving.
Number 4 is Nick Chubb, and the question here, Mo, is health. When Nick Chubb is healthy, Nick Chubb is amazing. When Nick Chubb is not healthy, well, obviously he can't be amazing because he's not playing. But damn, Mo, when Nick Chubb is on the field, he deserves to be here.
He does. But again, he is coming off a major injury. And usually the first year isn't the year where you're fully back. It's the next year. So I have high hopes for him. I hope he proves me wrong. I think he'll have a good year. I think he'll have 1,000 yards, maybe 1,100 yards. I don't know if he's going to look like Nick Chubb before that, because before he was injured, in terms of just a pure running back, I'm not talking about all-around player, but just a pure running back, he was the best running back in football.
Number 3 is Jonathan Taylor, the saga that is Jonathan Taylor with the Indianapolis Colts. He hasn't hit the heights that he had in the 2021 season over the past couple of seasons. He did rush for nearly 800 yards, 7 touchdowns in 10 games in 2023, had some injury stuff. He has some prickliness with the team. When he is on, though, Mo, very, very talented high-end running back. My only concern with Jonathan Taylor is the past 2 seasons have been a little shaky. Can he return to that 2021 form in 2024? If he can, he's in the exact right spot. He should be a top 3 back.
If he can remain healthy, if they can get production from Anthony Richardson to offset anything where teams stack up against him, yeah, I agree. Taylor's a top 3 running back.
Number 2 on this list, I think this might be the biggest issue that I have on this list. It's Derrick Henry at number 2. Yeah, I don't.
Oh no, I'm not disagreeing with you. I did. You know what? I was like, Henry's high.
Yeah, I don't know why he's this high, Mo. I like Derrick Henry. I do. He rushed for just over. He actually hit almost 1,200 yards last season with a not great Tennessee team. 12 touchdowns, 4.2 yards a carry. My issue with Derrick Henry, it's twofold. One, he's got that age number lingering behind him, which, by the way, the age number exists because it's proven. Like, I know there's exceptions to the rule, but if you look at running backs as a whole the past 10 or 15 years, there's data to prove that there is something to that 30-year-old drop-off. But, Mo, my biggest issue with Derrick Henry, I don't know how many times he's going to run the damn ball. He is playing on a team where even though that they haven't had the luxury of having a back like him, and they've been injury bitten for the last 5 or 6 years at the running back position, they don't necessarily like to run the football. They like to let Lamar run the football. So, and more, the other thing I don't like, Mo, is Derrick Henry. He's not an I formation kind of guy. He's not necessarily a motion kind of guy. And those all kind of play into what Lamar Jackson does best. So, Derrick Henry is that guy that wants to be 8 yards, 9 yards behind you.
Yes.
He wants to get that head of steam coming downhill, right? And I don't know if that's Lamar's strength. So I don't know. I don't know how it's going to look. I have no issue with him being in the top 10, but I thought he would have been 9th, 10th, maybe 8th, not second.
So I look at this and I feel like when they made the move to bring in Derrick Henry, Chris, I thought this is going to play really well on Madden.
Oh,
it's going to
be
good.
Good.
It's going to be so good on Madden. But in real life, you're going to do RPO with a one-cut 245-pound back. That's not going to work. It's time proven. A big back like that does not work in the RPO system. Remember the guy that came from Dallas that went to the Eagles? I'm trying to remember his name. He was a terrific running back, but they put him in the RPO. It was who's the college coach that everybody loved him for like a hot minute? I think it's Chip Kelly.
Yep.
Put him in Chip Kelly's stupid RPO system. And I think his name is DeMarcus. No, it escapes me.
It is DeMarcus, not DeMarcus Ware. DeMarco Murray.
There you go, DeMarco Murray. I'm sorry I got his name wrong, but yes, same thing. So unless they're going to scheme and put in a couple of plays where Derrick Henry is in a power I or in a single back set that plays to his strengths, I don't see how he'd be ranked that high. Like, think about this. If you're going to stop Derrick Henry, what are you going to do? You're going to stack the box, which means they're going to challenge Lamar to beat them through the air one-on-one pass. And I'm not saying he couldn't, but that's not really his strength either, right? So I think Derrick Henry is ranked way too high.
And then, of course, number 1 is CMC, exactly where he deserves to be. No complaints there. How about you, Mo?
I'm biased, but C-Mac is the best all-around running back in the league. He's ranked where he should be ranked. He's in a system tailor-made for his skill set. He's probably going to have another 1,900, 2,000 yard from scrimmage season. He's just a terrific football player, Chris. I mean, one moment he's cutting you up on the ground, the next moment they put him out wide, and he's catching a slant route. Like, he's that kind of football player. He's very Marshall Faulk-like, right? He can do all the things Faulk can do. He's explosive. He's great in the red zone. He's a complete running back. You don't have to take him out in short yardage situations. He's that guy.
All right, Mo, we're going to jump to some Major League Baseball stuff, which means we are going to bring JG here up onto the stage because that is who we go to when we want to talk Major League Baseball here on the morning show. JG, welcome in this morning. How are you, sir?
I'm doing good. How are you guys doing this morning?
Morning, JG.
JG, we got some Major League Baseball things to discuss. First of all, I'm not going to allow you to sit over there and revel in the fact that the Yankees have some injury things going on, and I think they've dropped like 6 of their last 10 or something silly like that.
Real quick though, I didn't watch.
Get it all out, JG. Get it all out.
I've been busy. I've been coaching and recruiting. Who did they play this weekend?
I believe they lost 2-3 to Atlanta. I think they lost 2-3 to Atlanta. But it's all right though, because I opened up the periodicals this morning, JG, and saw that the Yankees still have a better record than Atlanta. So it's okay. The world is still right. It's exactly where it should be, you know?
You're very right. Yeah, you got a better record, but I'll say this though. I'll say this because I've been very critical of my Braves, but I said if they win the series against the Yankees, I think they're turning that corner. I think they're turning the corner. They're looking pretty good right now over the last week. So I'm not saying they're gonna catch Philadelphia right now, but they're playing better than what they had been previously. So I'm a little bit my panic button has my fingers off the panic button at the moment for my Braves.
And the Yankees have not played great baseball over the last 2 weeks. Luis Gil got blown up a couple of days ago. Cole lost his debut. Stanton's on the IR. Not Teixeira. What's his name? Rizzo's on the IR. So we got some bumps. We got some bumps in the Bronx, but we'll see how those things kind of smooth out. JG, let's talk about this. The Chicago White Sox are talking about making a switch to the managerial position. JG, I want to go broader than that conversation because obviously the White Sox are a dumpster fire. I don't really think it matters who you bring in there. But if you look across sports at managerial positions, baseball to me is one of those sports where, and I'm not trying to downplay the role of a manager. I know a lot of people do. I know a lot of people will look at the managerial role and say, listen, there's some clubs where managers aren't even making lineups anymore. There are some clubs where upstairs is dictating through analytics, what the lineups look like, who's getting playing time, who's not getting playing time. Let's not even have that conversation. Let's have the conversation of when your team is bad. Like when your team is bad in baseball, you don't have a ton. There's some, but you don't have a ton of stories where the next season they're completely turned around. Usually when a team is historically bad in baseball, you're in it for a little bit, and then eventually the kids come up in the farm system, and when you start to come out of it, it's not usually a one and done. When you start to come out of it, you actually start to come out of it, and you reach that next level of, you start to be not as bad for a while. Unlike other sports where in football, you can have an 11-win season coming off a 5-win season, be right back to the 5-win season the following year, and no one really talks about it. It was just a blip, and we keep on moving. Baseball, generally speaking, when they start to get good, they hang out there for a little bit because the talent's there. But JG, what does that look like in your opinion when you are coming into a managerial opportunity in Major League Baseball and it's the Chicago White Sox and you're not going to win baseball games? You know that you're going to lose a lot before you potentially start winning. Plus you're dealing with all the extra stuff that isn't necessarily in your control. I don't know, the team talking about selling off any talent they actually have on the team currently that would make a manager want to be there. That's got to be tough, right?
It definitely is. And especially in baseball where we're seeing the general manager having a lot more power than in past years. And that, we saw that. We can go back to, the Moneyball days in the 03, in the early 2000s to how it started transitioning, and then it fully transitioned over the last 5 to 7 years where the GM has a lot of say on what goes on, not just with the roster construction, but who's supposed to be playing and who's supposed to be doing a little bit more on this and that. And so for the White Sox purpose here, where you hired Pedro Grifol, and the general manager Rick Kahn and Kenny Williams, who was both very influential on the hire. I mean, they were fired last year. Okay, so now the new GM wants his guy, but at some point you have to still reevaluate. Well, our roster is not good. You could hire Joe Torre from the early 2000s, and he'd probably still lose with this team. They're not constructed very well. So why is that the manager's fault? Why is that Grifol's fault? Why is that not still on the gentleman? Look, the new GM, you got to build to help out and build this roster, and that's not the case right now. And I get the GM is not his hire. Grifol's not his hire, and there's been some negativity from the players about how Grifol's handled the job. But at the same time, what has the players done to show that they're going to be better and turn it around? Again, injuries have hit the White Sox, but I think even if the injuries weren't there and you still had a healthy roster, this was still a bad team. They sold Dylan Cease at the beginning of this before the season started. So there was already mentions, there's already flutters about this team not going to be competitive. That's on the general manager for making that decision beginning of the season. That's not on Pedro Grifol. So it's unfortunate because that's been a lot about how baseball has worked right now. The manager has been getting blamed more, and you have the general manager who's making more decisions, not just on roster construction, but on the culture of the team. We saw this in San Diego. Bob Melvin got fired because A.J. Preller didn't get his way. So he fired Bob Melvin, who's a good manager in Major League Baseball, but the power goes to the general manager. So at some point, I feel like owners need to really start holding general managers more accountable and not the manager, unless there is issues like right now. Grifol has put himself in with making comments about the team and whatnot, and the players may not be playing as much for him. Okay, that falls on the manager. But the construction of the roster, which it used to be the manager, it used to be the manager was part of the conversation when you had Joe Torre and you had Bobby Cox, you had Tony La Russa in St. Louis, you had Lou Piniella, you had those guys who had a say in the roster. That's not the case of much anymore. It is fully general manager. So I think the general manager has to get, even right now, the newer GM has to get some of that blame with what's going on with the White Sox and put them on notice saying, yes, we know we're not good. You have some time, but you're going to have to make sure to work with the manager unless we know he's just not the guy. Which, who's, as you asked, Chris, who is lining up to take the Chicago White Sox job?
Right.
Who's going to line up for that job? Right now, it's not a good job. So you're going to have to make do, or go find somebody that's probably a little bit lesser known that might have a higher ceiling as a manager. But right now, there's not a lot of people that are going to be lining up. It's a dumpster fire of a team, and right now they have been very bad for a very long time.
JG, the Mets have been on a roll as of late. They have won 13 out of 17 games. They have put themselves back in the wild card conversation, given how well they have played over the last 2.5 weeks. But they took a little bit of a hit last night. Edwin Diaz was ejected for a foreign substance on his hands. JG, I know we have talked about this before, and I know there is always a fine line in Major League Baseball between getting a competitive advantage and crossing the line and going too far. And players are always kind of toying with the line, around the line, on the line, hovering over the line. But this is one of those situations where your team's been doing well. You've won 13 to 17. He's been pitching slightly better than he had been, because remember, at the beginning of the season, he was not pitching well at all. And now he gets hit with a 10-game suspension for whatever he had going on his hands. And some will look at this and say, well, Chris, maybe he was pitching better for a specific reason. Just not the best timing for this type of situation, JG.
No, and I actually kind of saw that happen. ESPN was on the TV in the gym here in California, and I was watching that, and I saw the situation. I can understand the frustration of pitchers and with the situation again, because if you ever held a Major League Baseballs are not rubbed down like they used to be. They're whited. They're brand new out of the box, out of the wrapper, white. They're not rubbed down. They're not, you don't get the mud on them and kind of get a little bit dirty on them to where you can get a little bit better grip. Pitchers say we need a little bit of help. Why? And I remember the conversation years ago when this whole the spider tack conversation happened. Batters get an advantage by using pine tar to hold on to the bat. Why can't we at least get something that at least allows us to hold on to the ball? Yes, we don't want you doctoring the baseball, but as a hitter, and I know a lot of hitters at one point were, and I said this with you guys before, hitters prefer pitchers to have something on their hand to get a little bit better grip because they have better control. Yes, it'll help them control the ball where they move it around a little bit on the plate here, but it's from experience. It's, as I said to y'all, it's scary having a 95 plus miles an hour coming at your head. It's terrifying. And I've had it twice. I've had that happen to me twice, and it is absolutely terrifying. So knowing that a pitcher has a little bit more control if they have something on their hand, I'd be a little bit more at ease on it. But I know there's a fine line. And the problem is, and ESPN did a little segment about this. We talked about that rosin and sweat does make your hand a little sticky. I think what the issue is we're not being clarified as fans. We're not being clarified to the level of stickiness. We're just being told it was more sticky. But more sticky compared to what? What to the casual fan? What does that mean? So we're not getting explanations. That we're just hearing Edwin Diaz gets ejected because he had a sticky substance on his hand. But sweat and rosin makes your hand sticky. You see guys take their hand, go like that to their forehead, go to the rosin, put the rosin in front of everybody, put the rosin on their hand. Now their hand's sticky. Is that a foreign substance now? Well, no, it's not. So to what level are we talking about? Where is the explanation on what it is and what we're expecting that these guys are doing? I think that's the lack of clarity that Major League Baseball is not providing, that these guys are trying to get an advantage. Isn't everybody? Again, if I use pine tar, I have an advantage to the bat, to hold on to the bat. And speaking from saying this, pine tar gives an advantage to a hitter, not just for the bat grip, because the bat doesn't move in their hand as much anymore. And the science used to be, we did the sports science, when the bat moves in your hand a little bit, it does create a little bit more spin that the ball may die and carry too much high in the air, or it may create more top spin on the ball that causes it to go downward. But if the bat doesn't move as much in my hand, I control the bat better. That's an advantage. That's an advantage on my part as a hitter. So there needs to be clarity on what these pitchers are doing a little bit more. And I know they're trying to figure it out. They're investigating. That glove is going to go get tested while Diaz serves a suspension. But after you do the test, give the explanation on what they're actually using. Or say, hey, it is rosin and sweat, and it might be a little too much, which then we're going to have another set of questions that we have to ask and figure out about that.
The last thing I want to see is Major League Baseball umpires with some sort of apparatus out there determining how much rosin on the hand is too much rosin, JG. Last thing we're going to talk about today, I want to talk about the Kansas City Chiefs and the Kansas City Royals. JG, we might see something that I don't know if we've ever seen before. There is a state that is trying to steal both franchises. The state of Kansas has put into motion legislation to bring the Chiefs and the Royals from Missouri over to Kansas. Now, if you're listening, you might be like, well, what is this about? It's about what it's always about. It's about money. There are some potential upcoming stadium snags in Missouri with the Chiefs and the Royals. This has to do with taxpayers funding stadium things. I believe that in Missouri in April, there was some funds for renovations that was denied. And JG, it looks like Kansas is saying, well, if you want to do that to those two great franchises, we will gladly take them off your hands for you. JG, and obviously this is not around the corner. This is a down the road type of deal. This would be pretty historic if we saw two big franchises. And I know that the Chiefs are in a different stratosphere with their recent Super Bowl success, but we also know the Royals are an up-and-coming team in Major League Baseball right now, having a great season this season. To see two franchises potentially jump states, that would be something.
I can actually see the headline, and just in this, you have on ESPN, the bottom line will go, Chiefs and Royals move from Kansas City to Kansas City. I think that's awesome. I think that'd be hilarious. And all they're doing is moving. They're essentially going to be moving 5 to 10 miles, maybe, if that, just across the line. And they'll still be Kansas City Chiefs, Kansas City Royals, just in a whole different. I think that's awesome. I mean, pettiness in sports and business continues to grow every chance it gets. We see this with the Oakland situation with the A's and how they basically pushed the Raiders out. They essentially pushed Golden State out. Golden State didn't want to. I know this is not this. It wasn't the same situation because the Raiders and A's shared the stadium. But the A's, for some reason, somehow they controlled a lot of the area and Golden State Warriors were getting a little bit of the shaft on how they were handling a lot of the revenue within the sports arena of the areas. They moved to San Francisco. The A's, structured a lot of the leasing and deals in the stadium to force the Raiders to leave, and they went to Vegas, which we know that the A's are trying to follow the Raiders to Vegas. But pettiness in sports, and again, I understand billionaires stay billionaires by not spending their own money. That's the reality of it. And we kind of sit back and as fans and we kind of brush that off. Like, okay, well, they're trying to get a new stadium. It's going to create a whole lot more money for the economy. Because they want to have what the Braves have in Atlanta with a Battery. They want to have what the Rangers and Cowboys have, the Texas Live Sports Entertainment area in Arlington. You want that. That is the new trend in sports, is the entertainment district of your team that is outside a block or two that you as an owner own, and you're making money outside the stadium as well as inside the stadium. That is what they're trying to achieve. And again, billionaires stay billionaires because they don't spend their money. They want to get the taxpayers to pay the most of the money to where they can put part of the bill and then go from there. I don't blame Kansas City politics or even I'm not a fan of politics as a whole, but even for the taxpayers sitting there back and go, why are we having to foot the bill for you to be a billionaire even more? Yes, it's going to be great for our economy in the city, but why are we the ones paying for it? Are we going to get a kickback at some point as taxpayers? Do we get a kickback for this? Do we get a kickback for the money that you're going to make? Well, of course not. So I get, every time we have this conversation about new stadiums, I get why fans are like, man, why can't you just pay for it? You're going to make your money back. Right. Dallas Cowboys, Jerry Jones built AT&T Stadium. He footed some of the majority of that bill. The taxpayers did pay a good bit of it in Arlington, but he paid majority of it. He made that money back in 2 years. I mean, it's an entertainment arena where they hold boxing matches and concerts and wrestling matches and motocross and Monster Jam and soccer matches. World Cup is going to be playing soccer matches in AT&T Stadium. You don't think that he understood? Jerry Jones understood. He goes, yes, I'll pay majority of the bill for the stadium because I know I'm making my money back here not very long. Pettiness in sports that's the go-to phrase. I say pettiness in sports by owners to just say, you know what? Yeah, I have power. I have control. You're going to do what you want, that I want, because you don't want to lose me. I applaud Kansas City, Missouri right now for at least standing their ground and saying, look, we don't want y'all to leave. We love the fact that y'all are here, but you're going to have to do a little bit more of the work too. I applaud that. And it's a risk. It's a very big risk because there is options. And if there is options, they have the ownership has the leverage.
Yep.
But I like the idea that they're trying to stand their ground and hopefully a resolution maintains to where they can keep them in Missouri. Because that's a good fan base. That's a good area. And again, you're now talking about a state that if this occurs would have lost two sports franchises in the NFL. And I think that would be very tough. That would be very, very tough to have to deal with and pill to swallow. And plus, now you lose a baseball franchise too. And I know the state is more St. Louis Cardinals based, but that west side of the state loves the Royals. I've lived in Missouri for 3 years. That west side of the state loves the Royals. And I think that would be a very hard pill to swallow if they move. Even if it's across the state 5 to 10 miles, it would be very difficult for them to rebound and recover in that state.
JG, always a pleasure having you on here, sir. Thanks for coming on today.
Appreciate you, JG.
As always, guys.
All right, Mo, always a pleasure having JG here on the show. Before we close out today, Mo, I got to ask you, it finally happened. The Los Angeles Lakers have their brand new head coach. I'm sure you've seen the memes. I'm sure you've seen all the all the pictures that go up with all the zeros next to JJ's name because he has no experience.
I get it.
But how are you feeling as a Laker fan a couple of days after the announcement with your new head coach?
So I'm going to take the stance like this. Had we been able to get Hurley, Bob Hurley, even with his credentials as a college coach, my approach would have been, I have to see how much power they give him to implement his program, his plan, and what is their vision going forward, because there is life after AD and LeBron. I'm going to take the same stance with JJ Redick, who has no experience at all, but I'll take the same stance that I'm going to judge him not just on wins and losses, but is JJ Redick going to actually be able to coach the Lakers? Is JJ Redick going to have some say in roster construction? I'll judge them on that way. He wouldn't have been my first choice, but again, they blew it on their first choice. They did. They blew it on their first choice. So I would have went with somebody like Sam Cassell, but I'm gonna give JJ Redick the benefit of the doubt, and let's see what he can do. Like he may very well be a wonder kid, step in there and do things that we've never seen done before. I will say this: there's a big difference between being a great basketball mind that can analyze games and comment on games versus being the guy on the sidelines dealing with those personalities, and those personalities all have separate agendas, right? It's not just about my numbers. I want to be all NBA, my contract's up. It is a lot of things that you have to deal with, and you have to be multiple things to different people if you're going to be the head coach of an NBA team. Even more so, Chris, if you're the head coach of the Lakers. The Lakers, ever since I've been a fan, since I was a kid, it plays out like a soap opera in many ways. And so it takes a strong hand to actually have control. The question is he going to have actual final authority, or is he going to have authority over everybody except one guy?
And that's the real question. And that's the real, because listen, I would have to imagine, Mo, podcast buddies and head coach player are not going to play out the same way. So listen, we will see what happens. We got 30 more seconds, Mo. Go ahead.
How will that work on the podcast if the Lakers
it's going to get real awkward?
Right. Chris, if they're on a 6-game losing streak, how's that work on a podcast when they're going to be like, man, LeBron, you really blew it on those 2 defensive rotations. You could have used that one, but I guess you weren't listening. Like, how is that going to actually play out?
Or when JJ's like, yeah, sometimes, these superstar players just don't listen to the coach, and he turns real quick.
Right. He's going to turn to LeBron like, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? Right.
Mo, real quick, CP3 being a Laker. Lakers are apparently lukewarm. Some are interested, others are not. If he becomes a free agent, are you signing on for it? Yes or no?
I don't think it's a bad fit because I don't think he'll start there either. I think he'll be coming off the bench. So yeah, look, Chris Paul actually had a really good season for the Warriors coming off the bench. It's just that the Warriors as a team didn't play well, but so he still has some basketball left in him. We're supposed to be trying to get younger and plan for the future. I guess that's my only reservation. Why do this?
Why are we bringing the dinosaurs in?
Right. Because you only bring in the older veteran when you're like, well, we're a title contender. We just need that veteran. So, you know what I mean? Like, we're not a title contender. There's no point in it.
Right. He's not the secret sauce. He's not the garnish on the plate. You need actual pieces still.
100%.
All right, Mo, take us to the close on a Monday.
Thank you guys for joining us this morning. Make sure you check out all the great content we have at the Wire to Wire Network. Wire to Wire Network, we appreciate you.
Make sure you're back here, same time, same place tomorrow morning. We are going to discuss a bunch of NBA free agency stuff. We are also going to ask the question of why, in a very tight game, Caitlin Clark did not have one play called for her in the final 3 minutes of that game against the Chicago Sky. And, of course, we have more Major League Baseball news with JG. All of that and more. Coffee and Sports. It's the morning show, powered by